everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Anna. I am a portrait photographer in the Chicagoland area, and today we're going to be talking about being a photography judge at a conference. So right off the bat, I've never done judging as a photographer in a conference before. This sort of just fell onto my lap when I was checking my emails one day, and I thought it'd be a really great video to show you guys. So we're just gonna go through the entire process from beginning to end. The content of the email reads that this is the 2023 IPRA/IAPD Soaring to New Heights conference on January 26th. And they were looking for an agency showcase judge. So I was just looking through this email, thought it'd be really cool. I didn't know anything about this conference, so I figured I should probably research it first before I decide to actually agree to it. A lot of the categories was something that is tailored to me because I am a photographer as well as a user experience designer. So some of the categories were brochure series, includes content and design, print and virtual, integrated photography, which is what I applied for, large format marketing, logo design, marketing campaign, paid advertisement, print communication, which is informational and promotional, social media campaign, which I also applied for, video, long and short form, and also website. Once I was getting some actual research done on their website, the general consensus that I got was that this was for the city of Chicago for their parks and recreation, as well as the suburbs of Chicago or the cities near Chicago that have park districts. So that would be Wheeling, Prospect, Warrenville, Naperville, Chicago Park District, so on and so forth. So I actually lived in the suburbs of Chicago for a really long time, so I'm pretty familiar with Wheeling's Park District, but now that I live in the city, I have a general consensus of the park districts here as well. I was definitely curious as to how they got my email, but I'm assuming because I usually tag myself as Chicago photographer on most of my social media and platforms, that's probably how they found my email, so it's not very suspicious. As I was going through this process, I figured this would be a really good opportunity for me and anybody who wants to expand their photography knowledge. So I would definitely recommend, if this sort of opportunity falls onto your lap, to definitely go for it and just see how you like it. So reading the rest of the email, it basically gives you a general idea of what a judge gets once they actually apply for this type of conference. So you will receive complimentary parking, which I didn't need because I don't have a car, but that's okay. Networking opportunities, which is one thing that I want to go further into later in this video, is that you get to meet a lot of people that are in the industry. So you get a lot of business cards, and that's very exciting. You get a light breakfast as well as a lunch. You get a special thank you reception and cocktail hour that night, so that way you can enjoy yourself after the long day of judging, as well as complimentary admission to basically the showcase and the presentation, as well as admissions to educational sessions, exhibit booths, workshops on the rest of the weekend for that conference. You did have an option when you were submitting your application to be there for the rest of the weekend for free. I just strictly only wanted to be there for Thursday since it was my very first time doing this, and I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel mentally being there for the entire weekend. When you're going through your application, you can also select the specific categories that you feel like you best fit. I obviously picked integrated photography since that is what I do here. And then I also went ahead and did social media since I do social media content on the side. The week leading up to the event, I actually got the social media entries beforehand. Since it is social media and everything is online, it's so much easier to judge that process first before going into the actual day of the event. So once I had gotten all of the entries, I went ahead and started judging all of them beforehand. Since I knew that Thursday was going to be a really long day where I was going to go through all of the judging that I needed to do, I figured getting one of the categories out of the way would be super easy for me and also give myself an idea of how the judging is going to go. There are 4 categories the judge is basing you on for your entry. So the first one is user engagement and results. The next one is messages and content. The third one is your frequency and exposure of the social media content. And then the last one is creativity. There's a couple other things that I'll go into detail later about, but it is essentially that you needed to have it in a specific format in order to make sure that it's submitted correctly, so that way you don't get any points docked for it. In the actual showcase, you just needed to make sure that it was really small things like putting it on a black cardboard and having a 250 word or less summary, just giving a description of your thought process of whatever the category was, and also just making sure that you have the dates included to make sure that the entry was in this year. I did ask in an email what I should be wearing for the event, and they responded with business casual, so I went with a simple black dress with a blazer on top to look my very best. On the actual day of the event, I had to show up at the Hyatt Regency in Chicago at around 8:30 or 9, and they gave us enough time for all of the judges to show up and gave us a very light breakfast. So that was some toast, little muffins, and bagels, or coffee if you needed it. At around 9:30, once all of the judges who had signed up showed up, we were basically given the instructions of what we're going to be doing that day, as well as our assignments. Since I already had selected integrated photography and social media content, those were the 2 that I definitely knew that I was doing that day. But sometimes what happens is judges can cancel on that day or not show up. So there will be remainder categories that needs to be filled with a judge. So whoever has finished their work beforehand or is able to take on that load as well, they're going to be assigned that. Once we finally had our categories set and assigned, we were looking at the entire small room that we were sort of confined in, and each table had the specific category in mind. Most of the assignments or the entries were on a black cardboard, like I had mentioned beforehand, unless it was short video or brochure. So essentially you just needed to make sure that they followed all of the guidelines, and we were given specific paper to use, and you just needed a pen and paper to begin writing. So at around 10 a.m. is when we began to finally start judging, and this is a very long process. You have to go into every single individual entry and make sure that all of the guidelines are correct. And if you had any issues, so like I mentioned before, that the summaries didn't meet the word limit, or it wasn't placed onto specific things like the black cardboard, you were docked some points for the specific agency or the district that applied for it. So it was a little upsetting to have to say no to some of those entries, but you need to make sure that you are being fair and honest and everything is according to plan. So I just made sure that I was doing my best, and at around noon is when the first round of judges were able to get their lunch, and then about 20 or 30 minutes later is when the second round of judges were able to go in and get their lunch as well. What I actually had forgotten was during the application process, I don't remember them specifically asking me if I had any dietary restrictions or anything that they needed to know about allergies. But what was really nice is when I actually walked into the lunchroom, there was every single meal that could be for every type of diet. So I opted for the vegetarian option because it looked really good, but there were other options like some meat options that you can get as well. Once lunch was over, I was able to feel myself actually become physically exhausted over doing this. But I knew that since I had gotten the social media category out of the way a couple days beforehand, all I really had to do was focus on the integrated photography. And I had finished most of it before lunch had happened, so I was feeling pretty confident about myself. But then I knew that there were one other category that didn't have a second judge to have on their panel. So I offered to have some assistance and help out and make sure that those entries got scored as well. I remember cutting it very close into the time that we needed to finish. We needed to be finished at around 4:30 because we needed to make sure that everyone that was calculating all of the points can do it in time. So I also offered some help with every other category that needed some extra judging, and I did a little bit of large format marketing. So I just needed to make sure that all of the scores were done right before we needed to go into the cocktail hour. What was really funny is I desperately needed a drink after finishing all of that judging, just to relax and be comfortable with the fact that I am finished. But I had actually agreed to do dry January with a couple of my friends. So I was sticking to it and made sure that I didn't have a single drop of alcohol, and all of the judges did kind of laugh at me, but you know, I had some really strong willpower. There is other options as well. You didn't necessarily have to get a drink at the happy hour. There were some non-alcoholic beverages too. During the happy hour, this was a great time for us to start networking. We didn't get a lot of time during the brunch or during the actual judging sessions because we were so focused on getting those points in. So during the happy hour, we had a huge amount of time to be able to get each other's business cards and be able to get to know other people in the industry. I met a couple other graphic designers, as well as people that are in merchandise and other types of fields that are tailored towards park districts. So when you go ahead and go into the happy hour, it's a really good idea to have your business cards ready, so that way you can potentially have a couple gigs coming up or a couple shoots that you have in mind. I actually have a couple coming up with some of the people that were in the judging panel, so I'm super excited about that. I do want to mention that I had a little bit of time right before happy hour and also after the judging session to go downstairs and quickly see what everyone was showing in their showcase. I definitely would say that this is not really tailored towards a public audience. This is mainly for people who work in a park district, because a lot of the things that they had to present were for pool renovations, electrical, a lot of things that are tailored towards park district renovations. So you are more than welcome to attend a conference like this, but I would definitely say purchase a ticket if you know 100% for sure if you would like to make connections with people like that, or if you want to get into the park district business. Now that I had gotten all of my business cards that I needed, the scoring panel actually came in and we started the award ceremony. So it was really exciting to see all of the park districts that won and be able to witness everything that you saw after the fact that you were literally scoring them. So it is a little nerve-wracking because you obviously know that there is a specific set of people in the room that are the judges, like myself, and everyone else in the room is part of the districts that were submitting their entries. So that's a little nerve-wracking, but everyone was really honest and considerate, and they really appreciated the fact that we dedicated our time to score all of the entries. So this was a really fun experience, and I'm so happy for all of the park districts that won those awards. Now that all the park districts had gotten their awards, there was a little bit of a break right before, essentially it was like a giant dance party. One of the other judges had told me that it was basically like a rager, so I was very intrigued to hear about that. I had noticed that there was a band that actually came in last year. They actually had a Lady Gaga impersonator, so that sounded really cool and I was super excited. It was just a lot of different ages and people, and you're able to just kind of like talk, get some drinks, and dance a little bit for the end of the night. It was really late at that point. I'm pretty sure the party sort of started at like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. At that point, I was so tired, you know, I was working since 8:30 in the morning, so I figured I would just kind of dance a little bit, have some time to, you know, talk to the judges again, and then head out for the end of the day. And I'm not saying every single conference or every single opportunity to be a photography judge at a panel is going to look like this. This is definitely just a sort of basis on what to expect, especially for the judging and the categories and scoring. So I would definitely say if you are preparing yourself to become a photography judge for any type of panel, I would, number one, especially for the first time, look very professional. You are representing either yourself or the agency that has given you the opportunity to go to this conference. So just look your best. The other thing too is make lots and lots of connections. I had left the conference with many people that I needed to send LinkedIn invites to, and you don't really know what that's going to lead you to, but it's very nice to be able to chat with people and get to know lots and lots of different people in businesses. So that could potentially help you in the future. And finally, just know that you're gonna be very mentally exhausted at the end of a conference like this, just because you are going to be sitting at a desk with at least 13 or 14 entries per category, and you're going to need to make sure that you are giving them very thorough feedback. So that is definitely going to be very mentally exhausting. So if you are doing this for the first time, I would highly recommend to just become mentally prepared with the fact that you will be exhausted at the end of the day. But that is the end of this video. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notified every single time I post a new video. If you're also interested in me doing other photography judging or have any questions about being in a judging panel, let me know in the comments, because I had a really good time at this one. And if you guys have any future comments or future things that you guys would like me to do in the next video, please let me know. But that is all that I have for you guys today. I hope you guys are staying safe, and I will see you guys in the next video.